the loaves and the fish. I know, right? I was like, okay, Jesus, what do you want us to know about the loaves and the fish? And so did you know that also, a fun fact, that story of the feeding of the 5,000 is the only other miracle that's in all four Gospels outside of the resurrection? A little fun fact for you. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to start in Mark. I'm going to use Mark's version, and we're going to start in chapter 6, verse 32. All right, now a little backstory on this, which you may not realize, is that up to this point, Jesus, before this, had sent out his 12 disciples to go. He gave them authority to go and heal and deliver. Did you know that? Just before this, okay? So keep that in mind. And then his friend John gets beheaded. Bad dinner party. It's a terrible, terrible tale of just a plot to try to ruin what God is doing. And so the connection between Jesus and John the Baptist, as you know, they're family, cousins, yes? Okay, and so he hears that his cousin has just been beheaded. And what is Jesus' response to that is a very interesting thing. So I'm going to start earlier and then we'll jump to this one, okay? The apostles gathered together with Jesus, and they reported to him all they had done and taught. And he said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a secluded place and rest a while." For there were many people coming and going, then they did not even have time to eat. Then, starting in verse 32, then they went away in the boat to a secluded place by themselves. Vacay. Yeah? Okay. But guess what happens? The people saw them going, not a big enough boat, saw them going and recognized them and ran there together on foot. Can you picture that in your mind's eye? They're trying to go to a secluded place to have a little R&R, right? We all like that idea. and people see them and recognize them from along the shore, and they follow on foot. They're tracking them to make sure that they end up in the same place wherever Jesus is landing, because it's not like they knew where he was going to end up. They had to follow, right? Okay. And they got there ahead of them. Apparently, foot is faster than boat. Thank you for the little chuckle. I appreciate that. All right. So, moving on now. Okay, then when Jesus went ashore, he saw a large crowd. And if he was like us, he'd roll his eyes and go, seriously? Do you not know I tried to find a quiet place? Do you not know what has just happened in my life? Oh, no, that's not what he says. He felt compassion for them. These people have chased him down by foot. We don't know how long it took for him to get from one side to the other. But these people have chased him down on foot. He felt compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. When it was already quite late, his disciples came to him and said, "This place is desolate, and it is already quite late." Captain O's on that one, right? "Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat." What do you think the disciples were thinking in this? They were like, seriously, can they go now, please? Bye-bye. We don't have what all these people need. They were quite easily able to identify a problem, weren't they? Okay, moving on. But he answered them in true Jesus style. "You give them something to eat." Now, do you remember that they left on boat for a little R&R, right? So I don't think anybody packed anything, because they were trying to get, remember the verses before, it said there were so many people coming and going that they did not even have time to eat. See, I used to blame them, be like, seriously, guys, you did not plan ahead. Here you are, you're on this trip, and you have no food, right? But when you read it all in context, you go, oh, they didn't have time. They didn't have time to gather stuff to eat because they were so busy ministering to the people. And then Jesus is like, let's go. And they go, and they end up in this place, and he's like, here they are. okay, they are lost sheep without a shepherd. I'm here. I'm going to minister to them. And then they're all going, okay, Jesus, did you see the time? They really need to go now. They're really kind of inconvenient now because they're still here and we don't have anything for them. And Jesus looks at his disciples and says, you give them something to eat. Now keep that in mind too. What were they doing previously to this that they came back to report to Jesus? They were casting out demons and healing the sick. Yes? So they knew what God's authority could demonstrate in their lives. Okay? So with that then, we go on and he said, and they said to him, shall we go and spend 200 denarii on bread to give them something to eat? One denarii is a day's wage. So they're saying, do you want us to go and spend 200 days worth of wages on these people? Anybody ever felt like that? Of where you're in a situation and you're like, I'm sorry, this is going to cost me what? How much now? Oh, really? Is this what you're asking me to pay, God? Anyway, okay. And he said to them, well, how many loaves do you have? Go look. So they go on the scavenger hunt to find who's got food. I feel like that in our team meeting sometimes. Who's got food? And when I got more laughs on that, sheesh. And when they found out, they said, 5 loaves and 2 fish. And he commanded them all to sit down by groups on the green grass, not in California. They sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties. I think that's a miracle too. I mean, have you ever tried to corral a large group? Just saying. All right. So anyway, I'm really trying to go for some levity here, but okay. All right. And he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking toward heaven, he blessed the food and broke the loaves and kept giving them to the disciples to set before them. And he divided up the 2 fish among them all. Here's something I want you to note in verse 42. They all ate and were satisfied. So apparently his breaking up the bread was not like our little communion bread pieces. To go, here's one for you, here's one for you. You should stop the growling in your stomach. They all ate and were satisfied. But he doesn't stop there, because what happens next? And they picked up 12 full baskets of the broken pieces and also the fish. I mean, pretty much. That's what I was thinking. I was like, wait, whatever happened to the rest of that food? Because then later on, they're in a boat again, and they're like, oh, we only have 7 loaves this time. And I think, in God's providing for the need to send all these people home, he sent them home with plenty for the journey as well. Right? And so we can read this story over and over again, right? And go, yeah, that's great. God looks after the food. Wonderful. Right? But I think if we take it all and look at what's going on, it's good for us to look at who God is. Because in the midst of the loss that he endured, he has compassion. But because the people chose to go chase after him. They chose to leave whatever behind and chase after him, to be where he was. And I think there's so many factors in this story that we get so used to going, oh, wow, God's going to meet our needs for food, that we miss. It's good for us to look at, do I trust him? Who do I know God to be? Sorry, my notebook's trying to fall away. All right, so I'm going to flip over to Matthew, because Matthew's account has the other story about Jesus feeding the people again. All right, so we're going to go over to Matthew 15, and we're going to start in verse 29. Departing from there, Jesus went along the Sea of Galilee, and having gone up on the mountain, he was sitting there. Alone time again. And large crowds came to him, bringing with them those who were lame, crippled, blind, mute, and many others, and they laid them down at his feet, and he healed them. So the crowd marveled as they saw the mute speaking, and the crippled restored, and the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they glorified the God of Israel. And Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I feel compassion for the people, because they have remained with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. 3 days. I do not want to send them away hungry, for they might faint on the way. The disciples said to him, where would we get so many loaves in this desolate place to satisfy such a large crowd? Wait a second. This is not before the previous one. This is after, according to the stories. So how did they forget? How did they forget that 5,000 were no big deal? So why would this be any different? And what's interesting too is this time they came with loaves. I gave that away earlier. So it says, Jesus said to them, well, how many loaves do you have? And they said, 7 and a few small fish. Just enough for us. We're good. We're good. We don't know what to do for them. And he directed the people to sit down on the ground. He took the 7 loaves and the fish, and giving thanks, he broke them and started giving them to the disciples. And the disciples gave them to the people, and they all ate and were satisfied. And they picked up what was left over of the broken pieces, 7 large baskets full. And those who ate were 4,000 men, besides women and children. Sending away the crowds, Jesus got into the boat and then came to the region of Megadon. We're just going to call it that. Okay. All right. So in our pursuit of Jesus, who do we see him as? Is the thought that kept going through my head, because I'm like, Lord, why do you want to talk about loaves and fishes? Do you want to highlight the fact that you are a God who provides? Yes, you can multiply the food that we lack. And if we stop there, we miss it. Because how many times has God already done that in our lives? How many times has he already provided in what we lacked, and yet we have a moment of going, what about this time? Is he going to do it this time? And remember, I told you about how he had filled them. He had given his authority to them and sent them out to go do incredible things. And they came back marveling, going, Jesus, guess what? We were able to cast, even demons responded to us in your name. They were all wowed at the fact, what you gave us to go do, we did it, and it worked. Right? And in one of those parts, after, when he's walking, he comes walking up on the water after he finally gets some alone time. He dispenses the crowd. The first time that he was feeding everyone, he sent the disciples on ahead. Because remember, he was like, well, here, you guys go, you need some rest. So you go ahead. And he sends them off, and he disperses the crowds himself. And it strikes me as this, he's so countercultural that he knows and he cares about the little things, but it's also that he's not so lofty that he wouldn't be moved to compassion. That he recognizes and sees, oh, you're hungry for me? Well, he does call himself the bread of life, and those who eat of him will be satisfied. So if they're hungry for him, they're chasing after, and they're going, you have something that we need. They're laying their sick down at his feet. They recognize there's something about this Jesus. These miracles and these signs and wonders follow him, but they also follow his disciples. And it causes me to go, well, who are we then? Are we his disciples who have then been given his authority to go and do what he did? Or are we caught up in but can I trust him? Am I willing to pay this cost? Do you know how much this is going to cost me, Jesus? If I take this time and I stop doing everything that takes care of me, and I actually choose to step out and chase after you, do you know what that's going to cost me, Jesus? Are you really asking me to pay that kind of a cost, Jesus? I can tell you with my own life, it is well worth to pay the cost. Because you realize it didn't actually cost you. Because he fulfilled the need. In an abundance, not just a barely scraping by, your belly's okay, now go on, but in an abundance of here's some for now, and here's some for when on your journey home. There's plenty to go around. Everyone will be satisfied with him. This is who he is. Yes, he brings us out to what feels like a bit of a limb to go, well, what are you going to risk? What are you going to do? Is loaves and fishes just about him being God of providing food? No. Is loaves and fishes a demonstration of what he is capable of? Yes. And that hasn't changed. So it's kind of then gets me to thinking, okay, so what are my loaves and my fish that I need to offer up and go, okay, what can you do with this? Because this is all I've got. And in my life, I've done that. I've been like, okay, Jesus, you know what? I think I'm good with kids. Here you go. What do I do with that? All right. He sends me to California to be the children's pastor. And before that, I was, well, come to the School of Transformation. I'll tell you all about it. But, and so in that it's like, okay, so now I have to leave my country and my family and everything familiar and come to a place where I'm like, oh, I think I'm good with kids. So here we go. Oh, by the way, Maria, we made you the intern house leader because they all want to kill each other. Awesome. Okay. Oh, and you have a team of people that you need to lead. Oh, okay. Awesome. I thought I was just going to be playing with kids by myself, so I guess not. And it's just what he does in the risk with him is like, okay, I'll give it a year. I've been here 16 years now, people. Woohoo! Yeah, Orville's now home. Haha. And in it now he's changed the circumstances and the things that I get to do because it's about what do you risk? I mean, I could tell you of the years of we would go to this. My parents were both they both immigrated from Holland when they were young. They met in Canada. I'm Canadian by birth, Orville by heart, and so they were going to church all my life. I had a rich heritage of parents who read the Bible to us and prayed together, and we were at every time the doors were open to a church in upstate New York. Okay, we drove 30 minutes to get to church and paid a toll to cross the bridge and through customs every Wednesday and Sunday. My parents showed me the commitment, and it's we want to be where God has called us to be. I loved it when the border crossing guard was like, "Are there no good churches in Canada?" Set up. My dad was like, "No, we feel God has called us to come over here." He's like, "Go ahead, go through." And it's we would go to this place in Herman, New York when I was a teenager, and we'd have tent revival meetings. And it was, what a way for a teenager to spend the summers. Come on. Just having fun in Holy Spirit and learning more about Jesus. And it was so rich, and it was so like, wow, okay, now I get all this information, and now what do I do with it, right? We get all these great teachings and all this, and we're waiting for this opportunity. The disciples had been sitting under Jesus' tutelage, and he gives them authority and says, now go and do it. Because there's something that changes from when you hear about it to when you actually do something with it, right? Our faith cannot increase unless we have a work that goes along with it, right? And so as they do this, they go and they're amazed at the authority of what Jesus does, but they also see, okay, we still have more to do. Because now here's these crowds, and they just won't go away, and we're tired. And they're constantly wanting you, Jesus. And what do I do with these crowds of people that are just not relenting? And we can grow bitter. See, I believe that the Father's House Church is being positioned for what God is planning to do. Because I know Steve and Vicky's heart is to follow God's lead. And they will say yes to Jesus every step of the way. And so in all that's happening and the shaking and the moving and the kind of, okay, now we're not doing this, but we're going to do this. As being part of church leadership, I get the privilege and the front row seat to watch how we navigate this. It's God's on the move. And he's up to something. He's not asleep. And so it's up to us to have eyes to see what is it that he's planning on doing. Because he tells the disciples, he says, hey, it's great that you're able to discern the weather. Well done. But you need to know how to discern the signs of the times. Paraphrases mine, right? And the point is, like, it's great that you can see outside and go, oh, this is a good day for going for a walk. It's sunny outside. Ooh, it's kind of overcast, probably going to rain. Again, not in California. But, being able to tell. And so God is doing something where he's positioning things and he's getting hearts ready. And it's going, who do you know him to be? And where is your trust? Because if he gives you authority to do what he's calling you to do, people are going to come. And it's going to be relentless. Because there are lost sheep out there that are looking for a shepherd. That is as true today as it is then. And we get to be the face of Jesus on this earth. What a privilege, but a cost that we need to look at and go, am I going to get frustrated at the fact that if he's going to ask me for everything? Am I going to go, really? You want me to give how many days' wages of this? How much of my time for this? I thought I was going to get a break. You want me to feed these people? I thought we were sending them away to the surrounding towns. Could they please just go find somewhere else? When he entrusts them to you, it's coming. Do we believe that it's coming? Are we willing to position ourselves for it to come? To get ready to go, you know what? If the crowds are coming, that means Jesus is here. I want Jesus here. I don't know about you, but I want to see his tangible glory made manifest in this room because we've paid this price and we want more of him. I do. I have spent my whole life just wanting to be used and to love on Jesus. That has been the position of my heart since I was baptized at 13 years old. Since I was, I don't know how old, to crawl up on the seat, to pull on my mom's sleeve, to say, can you help me ask Jesus in my heart? My life is laid down for him. And I want to see what he's doing. I want to be used by him. And I don't want anything to hold that back and go, yeah, but that's just too much. I'm tired. I mean, if he can feel compassion after someone close to him, I mean, he gets the nice inside scoop, of going, well, I'm going to heaven soon too. So I get to see John the Baptist again, right? But isn't that the same story for us? Our time is but a moment on this earth, but it feels so long. I had my 5-year-old ask me, Mom, why do people die? Yeah. I'm like, okay, how do I answer this one? I'm like, all right. And I said, well, it was tagged with, why do some people die and some people live? And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Not everybody knows about who Jesus is. There's this little family that she likes on YouTube Kids, and they did a Christmas special, and it was all Santa, and she's like, Mom, don't they know Christmas is actually Jesus' birthday? And I was like, well, here's the thing, honey, not everybody does. She went, we need to write them. Can we go visit them and tell them that Christmas is Jesus' birthday? That's something we've lost. That's something, wrong word. That's something we've pushed down to make it look up like, okay, I'm okay with everybody else. I'm here. We've lost that burning, like, no, you must know who he is. And we've gotten too concerned of, well, how am I going to look to people? The gospel is simple, people. It is simple. It is the good news. And we overcomplicate it by going, what if I don't have the answers? Has God given you the authority? Has he given you the words to speak of going, you know what, just tell them I have compassion on them, that I am a shepherd that wants to bring them in, and that I will heal their sickness, and I will drive out their demons, and I will set them free, and I will meet all their needs. This is who Jesus is. He demonstrates it over and over again. But we get the privilege as disciples to go, are we going to partner with that? Because the world's coming. It's going to be inconvenient. We all have a job to do. What I told my daughter about why people die, it was, well, some people have more time to get right with God. Some people have more jobs to do to share about Jesus because our lives are about Jesus. Everything we say and do is about Jesus. And let's reawaken that in ourselves tonight if that's something that has fallen asleep. Let's bring him our loaves and our fishes that we go, this is all I got, and I don't know how it could possibly be enough. Let him multiply it. Let him take it and bless it and cause it to feed those who are in need around you. What do you think? Does that sound like a plan? All right, would you stand with me? Jesus, we want to trust in you more. We thank you for the things that you have done in us, and we want to bring them back into remembrance to go, right, why would this be any different? Why would this moment of me choosing to risk with you be any different? Because you are who you say you are, and you do not lie. You are compassionate. You are provider. You are the true authority. You are life. And we look to you, Jesus. And in your own heart, if you would take a moment to just go and think about what is the loaves and the fish that you have, that you may have been holding on to and going, yeah, but this is enough for me. That he may be making you go, hey, what about letting me multiply it? What about giving it to me and seeing what I can do with what little you think you have? Because the world needs to know the truth. The world needs to see the demonstration of his authority again. So Jesus, we choose to give our loaves and fishes to you. As small and as insignificant as it may feel, we know that's not true in your hands. And Jesus, if there's places within our hearts that we have let that passion for people knowing you and feeling the inconvenience of people be louder than the compassion for people, would you forgive us? Would you bring that compassion back to the surface so that we can be moved like you were moved? So that we can see people for who you have made them to be, who you call them to be. Lost sheep that can know the shepherd, and that you would give us the words to speak, that you would fill us with your authority so that we can go and do. And Lord, for the places where there is grief that has taken us off course, we ask for strength, healing, and the truth that can only come from you. We invite you to have your way in us, Holy Spirit. Would you be willing to speak that out loud to him? I'm inviting you to have your way in me, Holy Spirit. I want to be ready. I want to be able to discern the time, and I want to be used by you, Jesus. So we're going to invite prayer ministry to come forward, and I want you to respond to him. If your heart is going, you know what? Oh, that hit. In any aspect, please respond to him. Tonight could be the night that changes things for you if you choose to chase after him. Those people who followed after, they got to be a part of that miracle because they chose to chase after him. He is the same God of the miraculous. So I invite you to come and encounter him. Come hear his voice.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We really appreciate it. And please make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos or our live stream. You can also support the Father's House financially by clicking the Give button. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.